Young ladies and young gentlemen, congratulations on reaching this third, and to my mind, most mystical of your Stations of the Cross here at VMI. That next one, the last one, a year distant, will come and go only too soon. You'll see, this is the one to remember. And I thank you for the invitation to share it with you, especially for the chance to speak to you this evening. I'm well aware that it's an honor traditionally reserved for those like you who have lived in barracks and paid the terrible price for that ring you're going to be poking up under everybody's nose here. I think if you'll allow me, I've had one real compliment since I've come to the eye, and that is to be confused, if not equated, with the product of the place. It's always attenuated a little, qualified a little, dampened a whisker. You know, he could have been a VMI man. He almost makes it. He exemplifies the values and on and on. But I ask no better. Remember, Moses made it to the promised land. He never got in. Anyhow, you've asked the guy who never got in what things look like inside. My mandate from your officers this evening, aside from the ever-prudent injunction to be brief, is to speak about camaraderie, if you can believe it. Well, okay, but as an outsider, right? And so I can only tell you with any authenticity the meaning of this notion to me. But you come to the right guy, because camaraderie, you have to know, is French. In French, it's the abstract term for friendship, since camarade actually means occupy in the same space. Camarade, that's all it means. Sometimes just by administrative function, as in camarade de chambre, roommate. And as all of you know, your roommate ain't necessarily your friend. The word, did I hit a nerve somewhere tonight? Sorry. The word distinguishes itself from other expressions for friend or friendship, though, because it takes its sense from a bond or a union that's formed within a group, something less intimate or personal in friendship, but at the same time, it's deeper. And for that reason, it requires a special word, so we got to go out there and fish up a French or a Greek or... The word's taken on a special meaning derived through common suffering, particularly in war, and consequently it's entered military vocabulary. The classic reference appears in a Nobel Prize-winning story about a drifter whose deepest memory is of being a prisoner of war, confined in a huge wooden shed, along with a crowd of other prisoners so densely they have to stand upright in this lightless, airless confines, so cramped that they actually have to coordinate their respiration and have all those chests heave in unison and then contract all at once just to breathe. They're in that tight. Backpack to belly band, as we used to say in the service. I understand you have a different expression here. As the bombs fall outside, they all risk death, each alone and yet together. That's the sense of this idea. They're all at the same risk, but individually, but in a bunch. In that darkness, and that syncopation, that rhythm, that common fate and common response give them a power, and the narrator an affection and a pride that he calls camaraderie, though he does not know the name of a single man in the shed. He knows what they are, but he doesn't know who they are. That's the sense of camaraderie. I can read and write in 5 languages. I hold 4 college degrees. I've studied and taught on 4 continents. I've jumped from aircraft 5 miles in the air. I've hunted men in 3 sovereign states. I've served a great institution. I've served a great man. I've done all that. I got the scars to show for it and the satisfaction. And I wish you the same, including the scars. It's what you get when you court risk and failure and humiliation. You dare the scars. It's what you did when you took on this awful old place. and it's what kept you here. And I mention this other stuff, forgive me, not so much out of vanity, but to make clear the weight of the experience that I'm going to set on the scale for you tonight against the most profound episode that I can remember from a life of some movement and adventure. So, on a November night, not unlike this one, as a matter of fact, some 20 years after I entered the Army, and long after I've served in combat and left active duty, still in the Special Forces Reserve, I jump out of a stuttering C-130 over Germany on a routine special ops training mission, as our orders state, to infiltrate by stealth and attack by demolition, the target codenamed something or other. Operational Detachment Alpha 211, our 12-man team, is broken up into cells, each with a specific task in this fictitious occupied territory. Two of us, my longtime buddy Skipper, and I, are assigned to hump 40 cliques across 3 mountain ranges, link up with a band of local partisans, train them in the employment of military demolitions, and blow up a timber trestle bridge, which the Germans probably want removed anyway, and which us dumb gringos are going to do for them. It's a starry, moonless night, crystal silence over the German forest, fragrance, too, as we discover that the Germans, with that remarkable efficiency of theirs, have just fertilized the beet field we land in with what's euphemistically called on the continent night soil. Human waste. Skipper and I stash our chutes, and we lurch off into the night, lugging commo gear, rations, demo, weapons, ammo. We shinny along through cool woods at a good pace, up ridges, across icy creeks, under a canopy of brooding evergreen. Dawn casts a pink glow over wisps of mist that linger still in the bottoms. We hump away under a pasty sun, stopping now again, fill a canteen or snuffle down a can of Charlie Rat fruit. We keep moving because it's a long way, but as twilight settles that second night, we top a ridge, decide to log her up overlooking a sprawling valley that's turned riot in the European fall. Silver River meanders through it in the distance. Soaked in sweat, we drop our rucks and fall back gasping against the thick trees just behind a ridgetop. The small stream chuckles toward the valley floor beside us, and beside us stands an abandoned orchard, the trees still hung with the last of the season's fruit. We don't say a thing. We just sit and breathe. Skipper opens his M5 bag and he snakes out the suture kit. With bread from the Charlie Rats, he crawls along the brook, and in a few minutes he's got a dozen shimmering trout that he lays down on a poncho in front of us. I climb a tree and I snag an armful of apples. We build a fire in a thicket, roast the trout while the apples bubble on the coals. We climb back up the ridge and suck the sweet white meat off the fish and scoop out the warm pulp from the apples with Charlie Rat spoons. We wash it down with the clear icy water from the brook. Evening shadows fall, and we stare out into the lowering gloom. Two mute, middle-aged burnouts. Skipper marks phone lines for misutility with a can of orange spray paint all day long. And I hammer bored adolescents with irregular French verbs at a college nobody ever heard of in Virginia. His wife is putting on weight. My kid thinks I'm a jerk. Transmission just fell out of his car. Faculty at Hampton-Sydney wants to turn me down for promotion. A decision overturned by then president of the college, Josiah Bunting III, by the way. For what it's worth. Told you he was a great man. We're two flagging, fading losers by just about anybody's test. If we talk at all, it's about lost love and lost war and lost hope. And mostly we just sit and breathe in unison, in common, together. Still alone, but in that bond of humanity and fragile dignity that can face shame and humiliation and the boredom of everyday life that's small and immediate, as well as abject and darker fears like life and death that are cosmic and looming. There's plenty of each to go around, I gotta say. But that moment, young ladies and young gentlemen, of sinking sun and gathering shadow, of intimate, if wordless, communion with another human being in this struggle with life's smallness and immediacy, is the moment of all the moments in that life that I was churlish enough to cite to you earlier, is of all the moments in that life the most magical and the one that I treasure the most deeply, to the exclusion even of my often accidental and always ephemeral triumphs. I thought that my heart would burst in that moment. I actually thought it. Two guys together, essentially alone, united by, joined by, bonded by what? Aloneness, by solitude, by the struggle for dignity and integrity that ultimately has to be faced alone. And you, young ladies and young gentlemen of 2002, you will be alone out there, so long as you determine to do it the hard way. You will be alone. And just as, and you know it now, you've been alone here in many ways. You can have 3 roomies or 5. You can have 400 BRs at matriculation and 200 at commencement. You're still alone doing them push-ups. And still alone in that library to decide if you should quote from the source or foist off those words as your own. You're still alone when you sign that log testifying that you did this or that on your honor. And alone when you sit on the jury in HC. Theodore Roosevelt has left some oracular words to us about the road to greatness being dark and lonely, and only at intervals illuminated by the presence of other great men who are often your enemy. You will be alone out there, whether you take the road to greatness or not. I suggest you go ahead and try, doesn't matter. The same tests will face you on any road. You'll be alone, but together. Your camarade, your brother rat in our language, will be there too, but bearing his burden or her burden alone. Your comfort, such as it is going to come to you from the knowledge that he or she, too, is alone, but grappling with the same eternal dilemma, often small and immediate, often undignified and humiliating, and that person, your brother rat, your camarade, is out there by his or her persistence courting the risk, and risking the failure and daring the scar, and breathing in unison with you and the rest of 2002. That's why when I could wear the ring of any of 4 different colleges and universities, I wear this one and have every single day since I got it, and hold it, of all the baubles I own, my most precious. Not for me. I haven't done anything to burnish this ring. You have. And you will burnish it yet brighter out there. It's for you that I wear it, for what you've made of yourselves, what you will make, for what you've done, what you will do. I'll see you on that stage, May, a year. God bless you till then. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, Brother Rats. Before I begin, I would like to ask you to keep our brother Rat, Jesse Barnard, and his family in your prayers, as his grandfather passed away last night and he could not be with us today. And welcome. Welcome to our ring figure. This is a day we have been looking forward to for a long time. In a few minutes, we will join the ranks of 160 classes of VMI cadets. We're about to join the coveted Brotherhood of the Ring. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for being here to share in our triumph and our accomplishment. We would not have made it this far without your support, your encouragement, or your inspiration. Thank you. And to the class, we have made it this far. We've endured, we've struggled, we've waited, and we've survived. It is November 10th, the year 2000, and we, the VMI class of 2002, have earned the sacred privilege to wear the ring.
Almighty God, we turn our thoughts toward you in these moments, commencing the celebration of Ring Figure, a landmark event in the cadetship of the class of 2002. As they assume their place among the generations of VMI graduates who proudly wear their VMI ring, as they receive their invitation to become members of the Brotherhood of the Ring, compel them to live lives reflecting the true qualities of character that produce honor for the Institute. Increase in them their love for one another and for this school, and enhance their appreciation for you, the source of every good and perfect gift. This, O God, is our prayer. Amen.
Good afternoon. It's such an amazing sight to be standing here looking out and seeing so many smiling and happy faces, and some that need a little more rest because of last night. Wow, wasn't last night truly amazing? A live band in the courtyard. And so maybe we aren't the old Corps. And to think that we have 3 more days of sharing this wonderful time together is going to be a blast. Thank you all for being here. Mom, parents, grandparents, family members, and distinguished guests, for sharing this truly awesome moment with us, with the class of 2002. What a wonderful day. What a beautiful day. I know that I, along with you all, am very excited for this time that has finally arrived. It had been for the past 2.5 years, but now it is a reality. And like I told some of you last night, we are doing it. We may ask ourselves, what is it? Well, it is a feeling of accomplishment. It is the knowing that we have traveled down the road less traveled, which brings us together here at this time in our cadetships to receive one of the road's greatest blessings, our rings. And with our rings, we will place on our fingers later, we will join such a brotherhood, such a tradition rich in honor and integrity. We know it, and the world knows it. Let us go forth from this day with our heads held high and our rings shining bright, knowing that the future leaders of this country and of others. Aristotle, a great philosopher, once stated that everything we do for some purpose or end. Let this purpose of the class of 2002 be to better this world in time of need, to go forth and prosper, to have the confidence to stand up for what is right and treat others as we would have them treat us. Let's be known as honorable men and women. Let us wear the ring with pride. Brother Rats, remember that it is easier to go down a hill than up, but the view is from the top. May God bless us with a safe and unforgettable weekend. Thank you.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, mother and father, dates, and the class of 2002. On August 17, 1998, we matriculated at the Virginia Military Institute. We came, we experienced, and we conquered the rat line. No one will forget February 28, 1999, the year we officially became Rats with Radios. Now here today, November 10th, 2000, we celebrate all of our accomplishments and recognize all of our hard work. What does the ring mean? What does the ring mean to Stillman Clark? The ring means honor. The ring means pride, determination, survival, sweat, blood, tears, heartache, and happiness. The ring means demerits, confinement, PTs, and hardships. But would we have it any other way? The easy way is not the VMI way. The ring is covered in meaningful events and represents everything we have earned. Before we know it, May 15, 2002 will come, and it will be time to experience life after the eye. Honor, education, and discipline. That is what molds VMI men and women. With all the wonderful education and all the wonderful life lessons we have learned and have yet learned, it is our destiny that we succeed. Success is what we breed here at VMI. That is why I'm convinced that here today we have the next president and CEO of a top 5 corporation. We have the scientist that will find the cure for AIDS. We have the engineer that will design bridges and buildings that had never been designed before. The general which will change the way war is fought. Women at the Institute are not to be overlooked. For many generations, men have risen to the top here. Now, it is only 3 semesters away before our women take their place in society. And they too will succeed and cross barriers that have never been crossed before. Brother Rats, the class of 2002, it is our time to step up to our expectations and responsibilities that come with the ring. It is our time to live as citizen soldiers. I would like to leave you with a quote from Mr. John D. DeButts, class of 1936, regarding what the ring now means for us. Whatever we do, it will be as men and women of VMI. May God bless our class and VMI.
Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, honored guests, brother rats, and my mother. Looking back, I still find it hard to believe that we have come this far, exemplifying the outstanding characteristics that we have learned at this starchy old institute that we have all come to love so well. I just want to give a hearty congratulations to our class, and I consider it an honor to be a part of this great brotherhood. Now, I want to introduce our speaker, 4-star General J.H. Binford P. III. General P. graduated from this distinguished institution in 1962. After graduating, he served 2 combat tours in Vietnam, earning the Silver Star for heroism. He later assumed command of the 101st Airborne Division throughout Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, where his division conducted the longest and largest heliborne assault in history during its attack on Iraq to cut off and destroy enemy forces. His last assignment with the military was Commander-in-Chief, United States Central Command, with responsibility of a vast region encompassing 20 countries in Africa, the Middle East, the Persian Gulf, and South Asia. I now am honored to introduce General J.H. Binford P. III. Thank you very much, and beat Citadel.
What a thrill it is to return to the Virginia Military Institute and participate in your ring figure celebration. I'm truly honored to be in your presence. Your invitation to speak brought to mind simple, yet very, very special memories, beginning with my own class ring figure some 40 years ago. I remember gathering with classmates, our girlfriends, in my case a blind date, and families. I remember waiting with anticipation for my ring, wishing the speakers would quit dwelling on ancient history and how special the day was so we could get on with the festivities. I remember our guest of honor, Catherine Marshall, widow of General George C. Marshall, our most famous graduate and one of our nation's greatest heroes. What a splendid occasion. General Marshall had passed away the previous year, and our class had selected a ring design that memorialized his magnificent contributions to our nation. The escort for Mrs. Marshall, Cadet Klaus Burmeister, received the honor mainly because he was one of the few without a date. In a strange twist of fate, however, Klaus's duty as escort became rather newsworthy. An enterprising newsman discovered that Klaus Burmeister was a second-generation immigrant from Germany whose father was a Luftwaffe pilot in World War II. So it came to pass that Klaus Burmeister, son of a former officer in the Nazi war machine, American citizen, and VMI class of 1962, escorted the widow of General George C. Marshall, the architect of the Allied victory over Nazi Germany and the author of the Marshall Plan, the blueprint for post-war European reconstruction that led to the establishment of what you know today as a thriving German democracy. Our ring figure celebration transcended our own concerns and symbolized reconciliation of all foes at the height of the Cold War, a period when the United States was leading the fight against the Soviets for the freedom of men around the world. My class honored Mrs. Marshall for all her husband represented by awarding her our class ring, a ring that is today on permanent display at the Marshall Museum. I remember receiving my ring and marveling at its large size and intricate design. As I stared at it, I realized I was more than halfway through my cadetship. Graduation was within grasp. There was light at the end of the tunnel, and it wasn't a train. This was one of those very special rites of passage, a defining moment in my life and in the lives of my classmates. I gazed at that ring during the evening and in the days and months and years that followed, and I do so today. I remember going down to the Richmond department store of Millen Roads on Broad Street a few months later and placing my hand on the counter as I looked at the display. A sales girl came up, saw my ring, was impressed, and inquired about it. I was somewhat then, and even now, embarrassed by the pride I felt as I explained that I attended VMI. VMI ring was a material reminder of who I was and what I represented. I remembered some 6 years after graduation, returning home from Vietnam shortly after Tet of 1968. I had been there a year, was recovering from minor battlefield wounds and fatigue. I'd lost considerable weight. And somewhere along a Virginia highway, my ring slipped off my finger and was lost. And I was sick to my stomach. There I was. I'd survived combat in Vietnam, was finally home, and had lost my class ring. I prayed someone would find and return it. I even called the VMI leaders in the Virginia Department of Highways and told them what had happened and asked if their road crews had discovered it. They must have thought I was crazy, but I had to try. Well, the original ring was lost, and that hurt, and it hurt very badly. I remember a few years ago being told that near the end of the Vietnam War, another VMI graduate came across a North Vietnamese prisoner of war wearing a VMI ring. He retrieved it and checked the engraving. The ring had belonged to our classmate and F Company commander, Captain Jim Rogan, who had been killed in combat several years earlier. I'm certain it meant a lot to Jim's family to get his ring back. So with your invitation to speak, these seemingly jumbled thoughts came to mind. I wondered about their significance. And after a while, it dawned on me that these are very personal and simple memories offering insight into the meaning of the ring that you are about to receive. Your ring is large for a college ring. Perhaps it's the largest size of any in our nation. Its physical size and ornate carvings are your tithe of the thousands who have come before you. You could have chosen an easier path. You could have gone to a civilian college. You could have saved yourself the physical and emotional pain that is part of VMI's Spartan way of life. But you didn't. You chose a path strewn with obstacles, a path you negotiate daily through teamwork and selflessness, commitment, physical and mental courage, obedience, loyalty, discipline, and honor. In that spirit, your ring symbolizes the Herculean trials you have overcome at the Institute, the strong bond you have forged forever with classmates, the stress you endure in balancing academics, athletics, the military, barracks life, and other activities, and the burden you bear in remaining true to the ideals of the Institute today and in the future. Your ring's large size and elegant etchings are physical reminders of the tremendous burden of leadership each of you will now carry as you enter into the chosen professions, the military, law, medicine, politics, business, engineering, education, and other fields of endeavor. So in this, the 54th anniversary of General Marshall's pronouncement of his plan for rebuilding war-ravaged Europe and the 50th anniversary of the beginning of the Korean War, you and your classmates are beginning to take up that wonderful, wonderful burden of leadership in the tradition of VMI men like George Catlin Marshall. Your ring's large size and majestic features symbolize the strict code of character you have embraced, the stringent standard of citizenship you're expected to uphold, the absolute sense of duty you're expected to follow. If you compromise on these precepts, the physical grandeur of your ring will be an immediate and electrifying reminder that you have failed yourself, your classmates, and the Institute. As I considered these thoughts in light of my own experiences, I now understand why I felt so ill when I lost my ring back in 1968. The loss was a sobering reminder of my deep roots at VMI, my bond with my classmates. That loss touched on who I was and all that I could be. Fortunately, the physical ring could be replaced, for it was a mere hunk of gold and stone. And as I ordered a new ring, I was keenly aware that failing to live up to what the ring represented would have truly meant irreplaceable loss. This afternoon is special, for it marks your giant advance in becoming VMI graduates. That special band of brothers and now sisters, recognized world over for their sterling moral and spiritual qualities. You join a glorious line stretching back over 161 years. As you leave J.M. Hall today, pause for a moment. Gaze upon the hill. Traverse the academic buildings. Study the ramparts of the barracks. Envision the Corps on parade. Glance further to the north, up Route 11, your class's historic and symbolic march to Newmarket. Close your eyes and listen. You will hear the voices of thousands from the old Corps, living and dead, whispering in your ear. Well done. Well done. Well done, class of 2002. Death before dishonor. Congratulations.
There are
four great moments in the life of a cadet at VMI: matriculation, breakout, ring figure, and graduation. And in a way, this is the most important, because this marks the point of your full acceptance, your full achievement of full status as an honored member in the great family of VMI. Wear your ring. It is your most prized possession. You wanted it big. Well, it is big. It is certainly the biggest ring. Let us just say, let us be frank and say the biggest ring in the world. I can't imagine that in Mauritania or in Argentina they have bigger rings. Let's say the world. This is the biggest ring in the world. Wear it all the time. Never forget what it means. Particularly, do not forget what it means tomorrow at the Ring Figure Parade, at our annual encounter with the Citadel, and beyond that, remember what the ring represents and stands for. I have the high honor and privilege each year of presenting the Douglas Carter France III Class of '71 Memorial Award. This year's award winner, a member of your class, your great class of 2002, is a citizen of Lake Oswego, Oregon, a history major, David R. Rossi. David.
Edward John Anderson. Jason Anthony Armstead. Burton Gene Austin, Jr. David Anderson Baber, Jr. Brady Allen Bagwan. Travis Wayne Bailey. Eric David Baines. Nicholas William Barcheski. As you heard earlier, Brotherette Jesse Allen Barnard was called away on family emergency. He will receive his ring later. Zachary Thomas Batte. David Scott Becker. Brandon John Bennett. Jesse Michael Bilfus. Christian Blanche. Matthew Robert Blanchette. Landon MacArthur Bloom. Nathan Wayne Blythe. Derek Vaughn Bodkin. Sean Matthew Bowling. Benjamin Wade Bowman. Michael Edward Bradley. Kevin Ian Brain. Christopher Garrett Brander. Jason Walter Breeding. Timothy James Brennan, Jr. Maury Bradley Brickhouse. Matthew Robert Brooks. David Linwood Brown. Dominique Antonio Brown. Matthew Harris Burgess. Timothy James Burke. James Richard Masters Burkett. Paul Stephen Busenberg. Jeffrey Lawrence Bushman. Edwin Frederick Cade III. Samuel Donaldson Carney. Christopher David Carroll. Paul M. Carroll. Christopher Michael Carter. Arthur Eugene Coffin III. Walter Scott Chalkley. Sophyup Chan. Robert Manuel Christopher. Daniel Jiwan Chung. Matthew David Sitchie. Class of 2002 has honored two members of the VMI community by naming them honorary Brotherettes. The first of these two is Mr. William Rader Clark, Bill the Mailman. Timothy Allen Cole. Christian E. Colomore. Kenneth Taylor Collins. Nicholas Allen Comfer. Jared Matthew Conrad. Danny Lee Cook. James Klingman Copty. Louis James Corden III. Lloyd Jarrell Edward Davis. Ryan Montgomery Davis. David John Arnold DeBrune. Frank Henry Deere III. Charles Cyril DeKaiser. Dustin Emmett Delcourt. Anthony Joseph Donahue. Richard Hayden Donahue, Jr. Bryce Spooner Doobie. Michael Edward Dunn. John Mark Eddy. David Bradshaw Ellington. Jonathan Robert Elliott. Jake Allen Elsas. Michael Keenan Ensminger. Matthew Douglas Irwin. Michael Christian Escobar. Donald Edgar Evans. Robert Connor Evans. Brian Marco Fenimore. John Raymond Fiddler, Jr. Lane Mark Fielder. Kevin Ellett Fields. Brendan Thomas Fitzpatrick. Nicole Eileen Ford. Brian Taylor Francis. Anthony Lee Franklin. Timothy William Freese. John Anthony Fuller. Nicholas Ryan Fuquay. Nathan Edward Gabor. Douglas John Garbach. Joseph Richard Garrett III. Daniel Peter George. Sergio Luis Giacchetti. Joseph Patrick Gibson. Raymond Francis Gearman, Jr. Jason Matthew Goldstein. Keith Lane Graham. Daniel Travis Groover. Travis C.J. Geit. Jason Mark Halen. Neil Whittington Hall. Kevin Wahib Hanna. Andrew Levin Harrison. Andrew Granger Harder. Alexander David Hazley. I'm sorry. Brian Daniel Harrison. Andrew Granger Harder. I should never stop to drink water. Sorry about that. With any luck at all, this is Alexander David Hazley. Robert Jeremiah Hendricks. Gabriel Andrew Hensley. Ryan Patrick Hickey. Otis Erskine Hickman III. Andy Dale Hill. Wyatt Ward Holler. Sean William Hoover. James Lindley Howard. Shushang Su. Thomas Jessup Huffman. Abraham Lincoln Hughes III. Ronald Gary Hall. William Scott Hunsberger. Matthew Lawrence Hilton. Michael Kennedy Emmerich. Combies Michael Giannotti. Sven Jensen. Dustin Garland Johnson. Matthew Taylor Jones. Nathan W.R. Jones. Tasha Nicole Jones. Mingqing Zhu. Sean Anthony Joyce. Robert Tomas Kozauka. Robert Wayne Kendrick. James Chadwick Kenna. Patrick Shafiq Kadak. Salman Abbas Kawaja. Paul Stewart Nick. Arkady Lvovich Knobov. Jason Frank Coker. Christopher John Konjelka. Brian Patrick Cornett. Nicholas David Crone. Sean Christopher Lax. Darian Lee Lafferty. Jason Michael Lamandola. Christopher Boris Lane. Jared William Lapp. Ryan James Lapsley. Jude Kinchong Lau. John Scott Leake II. Stephen Frank Lee Jr. Chad Eric Leo. Jose Macareg Leoncio Jr. David Gray Lester Jr. Edward William Lewis. Dominic Anthony Liberato. Corey Brandon Lindsay. William Evander Lyles III. Ryan Patrick Manor. Alexander Lewis Martin. Chad Martin. Heidi Francis Mason. Matthew Russell Maxey. Jeffrey Dante McKelvin Jr. Charles Lee McMath. Mark Francis McNamara. Brian Keith Meadowcroft. Joel Richard Meeks. Neil James Mellon. Benjamin Joseph Midura. Devin Sterling Miller. Christopher Brian Mills. Mark Darrell Mills. Matthew Simon Mitchell. Withers Waller Moncure III. Anthony Wayne Montgomery. Harry Philip Montoro. Christopher Lee Morris. Jason Robert Mounts. Paul Morris Murphy. Michael Lauren Needle. Michael Scott Nelson. John Michael Nemish Jr. Theodore Charles Nevitt. Magnus Frederick Nordenman. Daniel Thomas O'Connell Jr. Austin Michael Palmer. Richard Langston Palmer. Henry Samuel Papiano. Brent Oliver Pasco. Stuart James Payne. Ryan Nelson P. Fakday Penn. Renard Lorenzo Phillips. Naomi Elizabeth Pike. Jonathan Peter Pogranesi. Gordon Edward Powers. Wesley Edward Powers. Jeffrey Nathaniel Prauza. David Gabriel Price. Thomas Brett Prilliman. Jacob Scott Ratchford. Cameron Russell Rex. Robert Jarrett Rice. Brian Joseph Rodriguez. Christopher Stephen Roman. David Matthew Ross. Oliver A. Ruiz. Daniel Emerson Runyon. Joseph Ryan Scarborough. Thomas Barrett Skillo, second. Tracy Nadine Schultz. Larkin Gordon Scott. Ronald George Seebeck, Jr. Matthew Francis Serra. Gregory Thomas Settle. Bruce Dexter Sharp II. Randy Lee Sheets, Jr. Brian Patrick Shepard. John David Simmons. Edward Byfield Scarda. Franklin Peter Slavin III. John E. Sloan. James Bryant Smith. Lamoina Vasquez Smith. Quitman Gregory Smith. Wesley Sean Smith. Putivut Sok. Adam Kickling Solar. Bradley James Sorrell. Mark Douglas Stallard. Paul Wesley Stamp. Brian Lee Starcher. Corey James Stabinoa. Jason Travis Stevenson. Marcus Ray Stiltner II. Jefferson Derek Stoner. Philip DeForest Strassner, Jr. Anthony Harold Sturgill. Christopher Gregory Sullivan. William Tyler Summers. George Frederick Swank III. Caleb Allen Sylvester. Tri Bao Tang. John Wesley Tatum. Jason Michael Taylor. Timothy Andrew Tyndall. Matthew Stephen Thompson. Jonathan Austin Tibbs. Clarence Brian Toney. Nam Wang Tran. John Hill Trant II. Reuben Frank Trant II. Frank Luis Trigueros. David Dayton Troxel. Andronik Sarukyan. Jacqueline Best Tugman. Virginia Marie Upham. Curtis Wayne Van Cleve II. James Eric Vick. Angela Louise Vizzi. James Nathan Walgren. And the class is second. The class is second honorary brotherette, Major Charles Sebastian Walls IV, United States Army. Stephen Patrick Ward. Scott Allen Watts. Mark Edward Weber. Gregory Brian Wells. William Warren Wessling. Brandon Seth Wheeler. Bates McEvers Whitlock III. Jerry Todd Whitlock. Beats, sorry. Maxwell Bartholomew Whitman. Nicholas John Wilborn. Shane Collins Wilhelm. Joseph Michael Williams. Tyson Dolan Williams. Edward Blake Witherell. Timothy Bradshaw Wolford. Louis T. Wong. Luke Charles Woolenwaber. Mark David Yell. Michael Roland Zanetti. Kevin Andrew Zirkle. David Rogers Rossi. Stillman Snow Clark. Jackson Stewart Castleberry. And your president, Mark David Grigsby. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2002.
calendar in which we commemorate those whose foresight, patriotism, and love of country brought this school to being. We commemorate this day with great pride and with a certain assurance that VMI's future in the next century will be as glorious and prolonged and productive as it was in the 19th century when VMI was founded. so much. This guy right here.
Right there. Extremely hard for this
This is
ring.
ring figure
And we finally
2002.
freaking
Who let the dogs out?
Yeah, dog. Ring figure 2002.
That is it right there. Yeah.
Accepting and wearing the ring provides an obligation of service and symbolizes knowledge, moral values, trust, loyalty, courage, integrity, submission, patriotism, success, and honor. All of the attributes of what VMI and her sons and daughters stand for. For those who receive this symbol, you are one in a long line of those who have gone before you, and yet those who will come behind you, who have or will accept this obligation of service and wear the ring justly and proudly. You can see now that the ring is a symbol of many virtues and values that you carried into the world. The blessing is for each of you individually that can only come from God and will remain with you for eternity, long after earthly materials and riches will decay. What truly matters, what lies in your heart first, that is what counts. Is it God first, family, country, VMI, or others, or self? Which comes first? What is your line of priority? It is not where one has been, but where one is going that counts. You're starting out. Next year you'll graduate. It's where you're going that's going to count, not necessarily where you have been. As you wear the ring, as you gaze at it over the 50 years or more that you may wear it, remember the words today and what VMI and the ring stands for, all the things that I mentioned earlier on. But most important, and maybe the only part you remember today, is that the blessing is for you who wear it.
Almighty God and Heavenly Father, we are humbled by the calling that comes upon the lives of this class of 2002 as they are joined into the brotherhood of the ring. In this day, they become associated with a heritage of character and honor known throughout our nation. They step in among the ranks of those who have stood the test and been proven to be people of character, men and now women with whom VMI has drawn out the man or woman. And so, God, we come before you today to ask your blessing, that you would pour out and measure out your grace and your strength, your love, your encouragement to each of those who assume their place among the ranks of those wearing the VMI ring. Give them, O God, your grace. And as their day would be, so might their strength be in you. This, O God, is our prayer for the honor of VMI, for the honor of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.